O'Reilly Factors on tonight.
It's just a less respect for authority. There's no direction at home.
New York City Police Commissioner Bill Bratton lamenting lack of respect for his police officers. And that's becoming an enormous problem nationwide. Tonight, Talking Points will cover it, and Rudy Giuliani will respond. Now for the top story tonight, reaction. Here in the studio, former mayor of New York City, Rudy Giuliani. All right, so Bratton is basically saying he's up against it. He's not going to criticize his boss directly, de Blasio, because that gets him fired. Right. But he's saying, look, I got 35,000 cops, and they're being disrespected every day, and we got no backup from the politicians. They're not helping us out. They're hurting us because they're making it harder to get the thugs under control. Is Bratton correct?
Yes. He's correct on both respects. A lot of this has to do with the breakdown in family and all the things you've talked about for years, and I've talked about for years. Although that hasn't gotten much better or much worse. That was the situation in 1992 when we had 2,200 murders. Or
yeah, that's what the New York Post pointed out today.
Or in 1993 when we had 2 riots. We did have an interim of 20 years of being the safest large city in America.
Even when the family was...
Even with all those families
right,
in that condition.
So that's not a cause and effect directly now. But you are seeing in the public school systems across the country, increased assaults on teachers physically and everything else, authority breaking down.
There is no one that believes more strongly you have to deal with this 2 ways. Strong law enforcement and rebuilt social institutions. And mostly we can do it through the schools. But then these politicians, like the ones in Baltimore who came out and said, oh, the conditions here in Baltimore are terrible. They're responsible for the conditions in Baltimore.
Yeah, been in power 20 years.
So why aren't they in favor of vouchers? Why aren't they in favor of charter schools? Why don't they go up against the teachers union and require pay for performance so that children can get a good education? They don't because they're afraid of the teachers union, because they're cowardly politicians. And their people don't mean as much to them as the endorsement of the teachers union.
All right, it looks to me like we have a lost generation now, 25 and down, in the public school system. They're lost. I mean, even the good kids are seeing the bad kids get away with unbelievable stuff that you and I would have never gotten away with when we were in public school. I was never in public school, but when we were in school, we wouldn't have gotten away with it. And the public schools 25, 30 years ago did enforce basic rules of behavior. They don't enforce them anymore.
And they have to. And if you went to a charter school or a private school or a parochial school, of which there are still many.
They would, right.
They would, and that's why you see such different outcomes. And remember, it's Mayor de Blasio who tried to stop charter schools, only overruled, thank goodness, by Governor Cuomo.
He's in the pocket of the unions. So you have now this decline of respect for authority. You know, that was what happened in McKinney, Texas. Those kids, you know, the cops showed up, and instead of following the commands of the police, the kids didn't.
Right.
They did what they wanted, and the F word, and this, that, and the other thing to the cops. When the police now see disrespect directly to them, all right, they're going, I'm not even going to bother anymore in many cases. And we have many cops saying that, you know, shadowed in this and that. I'm not going to bother. And that's when everything breaks down.
It may be a cliche, but it has to be correct. I mean, it all starts at the top, with the president, with the attorney general, the former attorney general Holder. We haven't heard enough from this attorney general yet. With the mayor, what are their attitudes? My attitude was, you respect the police.
Do you think President Obama is disrespectful of authority down the line?
I don't say that. Here's what I say. When a president finds himself so critical of the police all the time, going way back to the incident in Camden, when he has Al Sharpton sitting next to him, which is like, how about you carry a poster saying "Hate Police" next to you? And when he doesn't find the time to go out of his way when 2 police officers like Ramos and Lou were killed, assassinated by a guy who came up from Baltimore because of all of this turmoil, when he doesn't go out of his way to give that as much attention as he does these incidents that are supposed to be
racial. So you believe that the president should be speaking out?
The President of the United States should say to all children, black, white, all children, here's the rule, kids. When the cop tells you to go, you go. You say, yes, sir, no, sir. Yes, police officer, no, police officer.
And he hasn't done that.
You don't disrespect a police officer. He's a symbol of authority. He's putting his life at risk for you. You owe him respect.
So what you're saying is that the leadership on both the federal, state, and local level here in America, not everywhere, but in many, many places, has collapsed.
Yeah, I brought crime down 59%. I brought murder down 65%. I took over a city that had 2 riots in 3 years, and it just reached 2,400 murders, and I left it with a city with 600 murders, and Mike got it down to 300 murders.
And that was by going by the rule book. This is what you do, and this is what you don't do.
We had rules. You want to protest, you can protest, but you can't take my streets.
Right.
You try to take my streets, you get arrested. I have more cops than you have protesters.
It's amazing that a city that elected you, how many times? 3?
Twice.
Twice.
Bloomberg 3 times.
Okay. That elected you has now elected this guy, who is about as opposite from you as you could get. It's like 2 different planets.
Right.
It's amazing. All right, Mayor. Thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. Next time.